So we are live. I know we got Cara in the chat, and that's good. She's the story we're going to be starting with. And just so you know, for the two authors, if both are here, once I am done with this, so I live stream to TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Once I am done with this, I will pull the whole live video will be on YouTube right away. But once I'm done with it, I pull the whole live video down and cut out just the excerpts where I'm reading your part, and then I upload them to the website. So to give you an example of what that'll look like, I'll go back to a previous one that I did. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, thank you for the follow, Emma. Thank you. I'll share my website one more time just so you can see what that will look like. So here's one I did back on November 9th. You'll see that you will get a YouTube video. Each book will get its own YouTube video, and that'll be strictly an excerpt. So it'll be your direct excerpt cut from this live of me just reading your piece. So anybody that missed it can go there, view the video, and hear the reading of your part right underneath the links to support you as well as to purchase your book. So that's kind of how this whole process will go. I figured I'll start every live now by explaining that and kind of showing how that goes and doing my shameless plug. But yeah, if you just go to my site, so if you go to the homepage of my website, if there is anybody in here that would like to be a part of it from the homepage, just come over here to author readings. It'll link you right there, or you can click it at the top. It's got my submission guidelines, what you need to do, what you need to send me. I put up a little calendar on here so you can kind of see what's going on. Megan right up here. She's going to be next week. I am taking a break off for Christmas, and I'm already booked out through January, and I'm starting to book into February. So please, by all means, if you are an author that would like your work promoted, I will read a short excerpt, about a 10 to 15 minute excerpt from your book, promote it here on the live, and hopefully bring some new interested readers to your page. And then, as you can see, I've got my previous readings all set up. Cara and Amy are already set up on here. And anybody can go and view what they missed. And like I said, I'll have a YouTube video there probably within a couple of days of this being done. So, now that we're into it. All right, we got a few people in here. Now that we're into it, I'll go ahead and I will pop up Cara's promotional. I do leave the TikTok chat up here just so you guys know. I put this up here specifically so the people that are not on TikTok can actually follow along with the chat, just because TikTok has the biggest interaction section, because that's where I started this, and you know, I'm still building up the other locations. So this will be up here in the video. You can feel free to send some messages, you know, congratulate the author, react to the story as however you see fit. And yeah, I'll just be reading. I'll be out of the way here. So let me, as usual, get myself out of the way. Admire this very beautiful cover, which, Cara, you designed this cover yourself, if I'm correct, right? I think this was, because I think I saw a video that you designed some of your own covers as well. But yeah, awesome. You did such a great job on this. Very beautiful cover. All right, I'm going to, without further ado, go over to Curse of the Soul Collector. I cannot remember which section of the book this was taken out of, but I will. I'll try to do it justice. So here we go. This is an excerpt of Curse of the Soul Collector by Cara Blaine. Lorenzo had been back home for only a few days before his mother insisted on throwing a ball. "To celebrate your safe return, dear. Perhaps you will find a lady to your liking." The hint was clear. He had not rescued a princess and returned with her, so the search for a wife was renewed. "Besides, you haven't quite been yourself since you came back. This event is sure to cheer you." She was right. He hadn't been himself. He had tried to hide it, but it wasn't possible. He missed Alma terribly and worried about her day and night. He couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't safe, although he tried to tell himself what she had told him. She had survived in those woods on her own for 10 years. but she had sent him away. He had begged her to come with him, and she wouldn't. He could not make that choice for her as much as he wanted to. He had to abide by her wishes. The day before the ball, he asked Matteo to ride with him. Marta had returned relatively unharmed and was fully recovered now. They left mid-morning for a jaunt in the countryside. "So, the ball tomorrow is another find the prince a wife effort, isn't it?" "Yes, of course. What else? Too bad you didn't manage to get the princess in the tower first." "I don't want a princess in a tower. I don't want a princess at all." He urged Marta into a gallop to ease his pent-up emotions. When he slowed, and Matteo caught up with him, they rode in silence for several minutes. Finally, Matteo said, "This is about the witch, isn't it? What was her name? Alma?" Lorenzo pressed his lips together, but finally conceded. "Yes, I thought so. You haven't been the same since you came back. It's because of her." Lorenzo nodded. "Do you think she bewitched you?" Lorenzo reined to a halt and stared. "What?" "You know, love potions, or the like. Maybe she spelled you. You really haven't been yourself." No. Alma? Oh, what are you talking about?" Matteo tisked. "You said yourself that she's a witch. You're obviously stuck on her, even though you knew her less than a month. Did it not even occur to you?" "No, she wouldn't. I do care for her, because she's intelligent and real and honest, vulnerable, beautiful, strong. Not because she bewitched me." Matteo sighed. "How can you be sure?" He had no answer for this question. Had she had the opportunity? Certainly. She had given him medications and prepared his food countless times. But she wouldn't have tricked him like that, would she? To what end? He hated that he was even wondering. He turned, without answering, and rode back to the castle without another word. Matteo, his closest friend, had planted a seed of doubt about the woman he might love. He understood why his friend had done it, but also would not forgive him for it any time soon. The evening of the ball arrived. When he entered the ballroom with his parents, his mother whispered to him, "Try, Lorenzo. Give them a chance, please." He nodded and gave her what he hoped was a reassuring smile. "If you do not choose, your father will." His smile fell, but he again nodded his understanding. The king would wait no longer. He danced with many young ladies that night, many he had met before, and several he had not, visitors from other places or daughters of nobles only now old enough to be presented at court. At the end of the night, his parents took him aside. "Well," his father said, "who is the lucky lady?" "Father, must I really?" "Yes, or I will. Was it not made clear?" His father's gaze was like iron. Lorenzo sighed. "I am not proposing to her yet, but please have the steward invite the eldest daughter of the Duke of Torno to dine with us tomorrow." His father nodded. "I accept that compromise." The following morning, Lorenzo sent a messenger to Alma. He could not shake his unease. He advised the messenger to leave his horse at a village or farm near the forest, but to return as soon as possible. He sent a few books he thought Alma would like as an excuse. He said it was a gift of thanks for helping her, or for her help. He supped with the court that night, and the daughter of the Duke of Torno joined the royal dining table. Her name was Amelia. She was a nice enough young lady, and seemed a bit more grounded than many of the other contenders. He invited her to a riding party with a group of nobles the following day. He called on her in the home of the Duke. He called on her in the home the Duke had rented in the city the day after that, where they were staying because his estate was so far away. He saw her almost every day for the next 2 weeks, trying to work himself up to a proposal he still had no desire for. Then the messenger returned, with the books, and a cat. Lorenzo happened to be at the stables when the messenger arrived. When the man pulled the cat from an open saddlebag, Lorenzo knew something was very wrong. "Where did you get that cat?" he asked, storming over to the man who was still trying to dismount. The man dropped from the horse and bowed. He looked somewhat ridiculous, as he was still holding Cody under one arm. "Good afternoon, sire. Where did you get that cat?" The man blanched. The cat in question squirmed out of the man's grasp and ran to Lorenzo, twisting around his ankles and meowing pathetically. Lorenzo picked up Cody and held him close. "By the cottage you sent me to, sire. No one was there except the cat, and it followed me for miles, so I finally let it ride with me. Didn't think he was likely to survive out there all alone. He's a nice one, for a cat." "What do you mean, no one was there? She wasn't home?" "No, sire. The chimney was smokeless, no lights were lit, the door wasn't locked, so I opened it to make sure. Didn't look like anyone had been there in days, or maybe weeks." "Did you search the property, the forest?" "I walked the property, sire. Only found the cat." "What about the goats and chickens?" The man shrugged helplessly. "Just the cat. I'm sorry, sire. I wasn't sure if she was coming back, so I didn't leave the books." He shoved Cody back into the man's arms. "See him fed and taken care of. His name is Cody. Keep him safe until I return." "Yes, sire." The man's eyes were wide. "Cody, of course." "Matteo!" Lorenzo bellowed. "Ready my horse and your own. We leave in an hour." He wouldn't make the mistake of going alone again, but he wasn't waiting to gather a retinue either. Matteo came out of a stall. "Leave? Where?" "Do it now. We will be gone for at least 2 weeks, but likely much longer. Pack accordingly. I need to speak with my parents." The king and queen were not pleased. "You cannot leave now. You're just getting to know Amelia," his mother fretted. "I must go. I'm sorry. I will return as soon as I can. I'm not going alone. Matteo will be with me." His father shook his head. "I cannot allow this. You had your adventure. It's time for your duty." "I am going, father. Will you lock me in the dungeon?" "Perhaps I should," the king replied, obviously near the end of his rope. "Nothing else has gotten through to you." "This woman saved my life. She's in trouble. I know it. I will find her. My honor allows no other path." He said nothing of his heart. That was his own business. "You will defy your king." His father's voice was dangerously calm now. "Father, if I have to, I will abdicate my throne. Do you understand? You would have no heir. I'm going, and no one will stop me." He walked away, calling back over his shoulder. "Matteo will come with me, so find someone else to manage the stables." He was on Marta 30 minutes later, Matteo riding next to him as they galloped toward Valenci. And that is the end of the excerpt of Curse of the Soul Collector, and beautifully done. I like the environment that you've built and the intrigue that you've built into this chapter, especially since I have no other context around who Alma is. And it just definitely makes me interested to see if the threat of a love potion is true from what Matteo is saying, or if there's genuine love in there. Let me pull my webcam back up here. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's not me that did a good job. Cara wrote this. She did a fantastic job on it. And I really just like the writing style, the way everything came out. I was trying to keep it, from going into a bad British accent, but just the writing style you put together kind of made me want to read it in a British accent. I definitely don't want to do that and offend all the British out there. But no, seriously, well done. It was very well done. Again, Curse of the Soul Collector. Cara designed the cover herself. It's very beautifully done. And the link is already up on my website. Please go support her. She's in the chat here. Follow her on TikTok. And go check out her book if you can. Go back here to the promo. Next up, kind of heads in the way there, we're going to have Dragonstones by Amy Henriod. I don't know if Amy is here in the chat. If she is, by all means, step forward so that people can find your account. But even if she's not, again, my website will link you to her website, I believe, as well, or her link tree, which will take you to all her social media. And again, I am going to do my shameless plug in between. I just started a Substack. I'm going to start using it as a newsletter as well as like an advice column or just whatever else I feel like posting at the time. If you're at all interested, by all means, subscribe. We're going to jump over to Amy's. So let me pull hers up. And again, another awesome cover, especially because in this chapter we learn about this little stone right here, which I thought was really cool, the way she describes it in here. This will be a little bit on the longer side of the submission, so please bear with me. It is a very well done piece, just like the last one. I mean, every week we have these phenomenal writers in here, and it just blows my mind to see the writing talent in the indie community. It's really fantastic. So I'm excited to jump into this. So once again, I'll get my face out of the way. Feel free to talk in the chat. And I'm going to bring up the writing right now. This one, she did let me know, is from chapter 1. So this is an excerpt from chapter 1. Let me get some water here. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ignore the chat. I see some of it coming in. It's just this off in the upper right-hand corner on a separate screen. So thank you for the compliments, Emma, on the British accent. I'm glad to hear it was spot on. And Cara, thank you for the compliment on your reading. But I mean, it was easy to do. The writing was just so fantastic. It flowed really nicely. And even despite how nicely it flowed, I still tripped up. It's been a long day. My brain is like mush right now. Okay, so on to Amy's book, Dragonstones. And this is an excerpt from chapter 1. My mind was racing, filled with pounding anxiety and terror as I ran through the crumbling streets of my home. The buildings on either side of me were on fire, covered with flickering flames of red, gold, and black. There was no mistaking it. The dragons were here. Screams echoed around me as 2 of them were spotted overhead. A woman on my right was cowering in fear underneath a cart full of melons, clutching for dear life her infant wrapped tightly in a soft blue blanket. She shushed her young one as small cries erupted from his tiny lips. I tore my eyes away from them and pressed on, shoving my way through the scrambling crowd of terrified people who were clinging to each other, desperate not to lose their loved ones in this chaos like I had. I had to find my family, no matter what. My eyes flickered toward the night sky, which cradled the reddened moon. The sound of wings alerted me, and I ducked into a pile of rocky debris made from the stone wall of Alamere's main square. The dragon landed heavily in front of me, causing the ground to shake and my small legs to tremble. The beast was so dark that if you weren't looking for it, you would have sworn it was the night sky itself. I couldn't take my eyes away from the creature and its scales of obsidian, highlighted by dark hues of sapphire and the sea. They were all arranged in such a way that the creature could change and blend into any dark background. Its eyes were gold, dilating and constricting most unnaturally, as if it were scanning the area, finally landing on my small form tucked away in the pile of rocks. My breath hitched as my fingers reached up to grasp the gold pendant around my neck, stopping it from swinging and hitting my chest. The feeling of the cool surface pressed into my palm calmed me suddenly. This was something I had done countless times over, and hardly noticed myself doing it. It helped to slow my heart rate and thoughts, as I watched the dark, velvety wings fold up slowly onto the back of the dragon. I ducked my head, trying to avoid its heavy stare, but its eyes were too much for me, and I looked anyway, locking on to its eyes. Stomping heavily with its largely muscled legs, it came forward, licking the air with its black forked tongue. If it wasn't for the mesmerizing stare locked onto me, I would have fainted, then and there. It looked deep into my soul, and I swore it was reading me. It had almost reached me when it abruptly snapped its head away from me, away before launching into the air with one giant push of its wings, forcing me further into the uncomfortable hiding place. In one swift motion, a blast of what I recall as black fire hit the dragon's side. The beast tumbled through the air before crashing into the large white fountain in the middle of the square, cracking it upon landing. I hesitated, watching its large belly heave up and down for air as it pulled itself out of the spray. The dragon's legs shook before buckling, causing him to fall forward in a puff of ash and dust that came up off the ground and coated its black body. I pulled myself out of the small heap and ran toward the dragon as it stared up at the sky. Coughing, I expelled the debris from my lungs and tried to ignore the smell of burning flesh as I reached out and touched its cool scales with my shaky hand. I was in awe of how large he was. I had never comprehended before just how big dragons were in comparison to me. Its legs were as thick as tree trunks. It could have easily crushed the roof of my home with the weight of its body. It was then that I noticed the long gash weeping an almost black, bubbling liquid down its thigh. What could have done this to such a striking and terrifying being? Briefly, I turned to the heavens and looked for another sign of attack. I was frightened that the source would come to find me, to find the dragon. There was a longing pulling inside of me, making me feel for this beast, and I did not know why. Why was I protective of it? Why did I feel for it? My fingers trailed along his side as I stared at the spikes sticking out of the ridge on its back and tail. Soon, I was face to face with my first dragon. I stared at its bright white teeth as its large eyes lingered on me. I was waiting for it to snap me up. When it didn't, I focused on other features, like the sharp snout and pointed nostrils puffing out white, crackly air. A smile tugged on the corner of my lips as the dragon breathed out, releasing a few blue sparks into the air. I felt the rush of the electricity crack through my body, sending the hairs on my arms and head pointing upward. Magic. It felt familiar. Hesitantly, I reached down and placed my hand on his cheek. The dragon stared at me, seemingly grateful for my presence. I sat there frozen, not sure what to do or how to help, when the dragon's lips curled back to issue a deep growl from its throat. I retracted my hand before turning around slowly to see what had caused it. "What do you think of the beast, boy?" A man shrouded in all black shouted as he strutted out of the shadows. He was strange. His hair was unlike anything I had ever seen, so white the clouds on a sunny day would have seemed bleak in comparison. My mouth was slow to form words. He chuckled, pushing me to the side as he stared down into the dragon's eyes, smirking. "I told you, you wouldn't get away so easily." I swallowed hard, my hands trembling as they curled into fists at my side. "You're hunting him?" Mentally, I was trying to prepare myself to protect this dragon. Even though I was only 7 years old, I was always getting into fights with other boys. The size of this man did not matter to me. He looked startled for a moment, like he had forgotten my presence, before composing himself by taking a deep breath and pulling his shoulders back to look more commanding. He directed his attention toward me. "Of course. This dragon and his friend have killed many people tonight. They need to be taken from this world." He stood up straight and pulled a small knife from one of his pockets. My heart dropped suddenly in my chest as I stared at the glinting blade. It was made from a strange material that I had never seen before. The man seemed to sense my distress and held out the knife to me. "Go on, take it." My eyes flicked over to the poor creature. If it killed all those people, why did I feel bad for it? "You shouldn't feel bad," he continued. "It tore up houses and has wrecked this town. It will never be the same again. Think of it—" He paused, looking for the right words. "As pest control." My curiosity finally got the best of me, and I reached out to grab the knife, gripping the brown leather wrapped tightly around its handle, running my thumb back and forth over its smooth white blade. "That's a dragon's tooth," he stated proudly. "One of the only things that can pierce a dragon's hide. I got this one from the first dragon that I killed using magic. I pulled it right from its mouth." He was smirking happily at the gruesome memory. I handed the knife back to him quickly, still not willing to speak to him. His swirling gray eyes locked onto mine, letting me get a good look at the pearly faded scar that ran down over the bridge of his nose and across his cheek. "What's your name, boy?" "Soren?" I finally uttered nervously. "Well, Soren." He squatted down, making himself seem more approachable. "Would you like to see something else of mine?" I nodded once, curious as to what other intriguing items the man had up his sleeve. He pointed toward the dragon. "Do you see that there, in the center of its chest?" It was unmistakable. A bright blue pulsing stone lay on his breastbone, pulsing almost as if it was alive. A living storm brewed underneath its glass-like surface. The dark clouds tumbled over one another as bolts of lightning streaked between them. I wondered how I had missed it upon my first inspection of the dragon. "What is it?" I muttered. The stone was warm, a strange contrast to the cold scales surrounding it. The man grinned. "Powerful. My friends and I are here to save the world from beasts like this one." His foot snapped out and kicked the dragon on its closest leg, earning another growl. "They have stolen magic from the world, and I intend to return it." I gulped, sweat suddenly beading on my forehead as a ball of anxiety formed in my chest. "You're going to kill it, then?" He nodded solemnly. "Yes, for the good of mankind." As he brought up the blade to make the blow that would take the dragon from this world, I looked once more into the golden eyes of the dragon. He seemed frightened. The light slowly left it as it breathed out his last gasp of air. His head fell back onto the ash-covered ground, and he was no more. I looked back up at the pale man, tears brimming in the corners of my eyes. "What are you going to do with it?" He was holding the stone, which he had pried from the dragon's chest, with blood-covered hands. Smiling, he closed his eyes and concentrated deeply, willing the oblong stone to shrink. Black tendrils of smoke emerged from his hands and encircled the object, making it do as he commanded. When he was finished, he placed the now small dragon stone within a pocket in his robe. "I am afraid, young man, that is a secret you cannot yet learn. I have a proposition for you," he suddenly murmured, interrupting my whirling, scared thoughts. "You can help me burn out this creature from the world and resurrect it to the beautiful thing it once was before they roamed the earth. I see great potential in you, young Soren." Shaking my head, I took a few steps back, remembering the reason I was running about in the first place. "I need to go. My mother and little sister." His eyes softened in understanding. "Ah, I see. You must go, then." I nodded, tears forming in my eyes. My mother, my sister, my family. I turned and ran. My feet carried me through the rubble-filled streets still burning with fire. I shoved the thoughts of the dragon from my mind as I passed those who were hurt or dead. I had more important things to think about. I would cry over the lost dragon later. It seemed like a lifetime before I came to a stop in front of the ruined home of my childhood. I vaulted into the crumbling rubble. My eyes widened as I scanned the dragon claw marks as evidence where they ripped off the roof. The man had been right. They did destroy this town. A dark purple dragon body lay over one of the walls. There was a gaping hole in its chest where its stone had been. Its green eyes were glazed over, staring directly at me. I turned my head away quickly, not wanting to look at it, as it reminded me of the black dragon that I had found so mesmerizing. Scanning the mess, I began to panic, wondering if my mother had gone elsewhere to look for me. I could be lost, stumbling through the bricks and broken glass of what used to be dishes and windows. I pushed myself further into the mess. That's when I found them. Their bodies were lying next to a heavy beam that had fallen from the ceiling, my little sister cradled lovingly in my mother's arms. I bit my lip and looked away, trying to fight back the tears that were pushing to fall down my cheeks. I needed to make sure they weren't dead. I climbed over the cracked wooden table and dropped myself into a weeping heap at my mother's feet. "Ma?" I whispered, reaching out to grab her stiff, cold fingers before pressing one onto the side of my cheek. "You can't be gone. You can't be." I looked at her soft brown hair, pushed back behind her ears. She could have been sleeping if it wasn't for the dark pool of blood soiling her ruffled blue blouse. My bottom lip trembled as I gazed down at the tiny figure curled into a ball on my mother's chest. Her blonde ringlets were covered in ash and soot, outlining my baby sister Riona's face. She was still in her tiny pink dress that she had insisted on wearing this morning. Gently, I placed my mother's hand back on my sister. I wasn't sure what to do or say. The shock was too much. I felt as though my heart had been ripped out. There was a large hole in my life now where they once were. I was alone. They were gone. I had no one. That's when the tears finally came, breaking through the dam that I tried to hold up. They streamed over my cheeks, falling softly into the dirt under me. "I am so sorry for your loss." The hair stood up on the back of my neck at the voice. "Go away," I growled, wanting to be left alone in my time of grief. I waited for the man to leave so that I could continue in my mourning, but instead, I heard only the crunching of rubble as he moved toward me. My fingers reached down and curled tightly around a loose red brick before I turned and threw it as hard as I could in his direction. "Go away!" I screamed before falling back down and pulling my mother's brown skirt into my hands and pressing it into my face, trying to get one last scent of her warm skin that I used to breathe in as I hugged her. I had no one. I wanted to die with them, to join them in the life beyond this one. Maybe there I would be happy, in a world without death or dragons. "Don't let their death be in vain," the man spoke softly, trying to soothe me. "You can come with me. The dragons killed my loved ones as well. I know your loss." Racked with shaking, I slowly looked up into the face of the man. "Who are you?" I finally choked out between sobs. He smiled as gently as his face would allow. Holding out his hand, he said, "My name is Eris, and I am here to help you, to help all of the people in this world so that no one else has to die like this." I swallowed, feeling the nerves and anxiety building up in my chest. "Come with me, Soren. Help me change the world for the better." And that is the end of the excerpt from Chapter 1. And again, as I said, just as well written as the first piece. Though this one is definitely filled with emotion. And yeah, written incredibly well. As I said, I was happy to I was happy to immediately learn of the purpose of this stone. I thought that was a really cool concept. I think I saw Megan say in here as she was reading, like a living storm within that, all just kind of in the stone. I liked the magic of shrinking the stone down. It was really well done. It definitely makes me want to check out the rest of the book to see where it goes from here. I'm going to scroll up. I was seeing all kinds of reactions in here, which is just awesome. All right, let's see. Right, yeah. Vixen, I really thought that that's the direction it was going to go, was saving the dragon. And I think, me personally, I like to place nuance everywhere in my story, kind of leading towards things. So I kind of think that that might be a direction that he's taking. And I kind of like the little twist at the end. You know, at first these dragons are dangerous, but the guy kind of alludes to that they weren't always this way. Something made them this way, and that they used to be, you know, really resplendent, great creatures. And so I'm kind of interested to see where that one will go. Yeah, Megan had that, a living storm. I like that. Exactly. Yeah, I thought that was cool. That was so awesome. But then, yeah, then right at the end, it really hits you once he finds his mother and sister just under there. So as far as first chapters go, I'm always a sucker for a really engaging first chapter. And this does really well. So, Amy, really well done. I don't know if you're here in the chat, but that was a beautiful read. So, to both authors, let me bring the promo back up. Both authors in here, Amy with Dragonstones and Cara with Curse of the Soul Collector, phenomenal reads. Thank you so much for sending them my way and allowing me to promote your work. I really hope that people go and check out these pages. I'll bring up the author page once more. If you go to my website, the link is in my bio, and go to the author live reading section, you'll find the December 7th tab with the two authors that I read today. And both of them, they have links in here. So this link will take you to Curse of the Soul Collector, where you can purchase it. And same with Dragonstones right here. It'll take you there. And same with the authors. It'll take you to the links that they provided me on where you can find them on social media, whether it's their author website. By all means, please go support both of these authors. I mean, as you heard, these things are fantastically written, and I'm very curious to see where they both go. And yeah, if you're at all interested, check out their books, purchase them if you will. Go to my website, it's all in there. And after tonight, give it a couple days, I'll have just the excerpts of the reading pulled out in YouTube videos and placed under them. So if you would like to hear the reading again, it's always there for you. And Cara and Amy, I will be sending you, once I get those separate YouTube links set aside, I'll send you the links so you can share them out if you want to. Kind of use it as promotional material. If you want to get an excerpt of my book, here's a little audiobook reading anybody can listen to on their commute. Or like if they're out for a run, just pop it in their ears. They can listen to it on YouTube. It's always there. So kind of take this and use it in perpetuity. It's yours to do what you want. I'll send you the link as soon as I have it up there. But yeah, both of these submissions, fantastically done. I'm super curious in both books, and I think that I'm going to be buying both of these to add to my ever-growing TBR. So thank you guys for that. And once again, I think that I am going to tie these into my Substacks, just to another avenue to email out to any subscribers. Every week that I do the reading, I'll probably include a link to this, or just include this page entirely to be emailed out as like a kind of newsletter, if you will. And I'll probably send out some of the previous ones as well, just to get caught up. But anyways, thank you guys for attending. I know I started a little bit earlier this time, so we finished kind of early. For anybody that does not know, this idea stemmed from Between the Pages podcast. Sean Amick is the host. Megan Mosgrove, who you see in the comments here, right there. There you go. Is the co-host of Between the Pages podcast. They go pretty much every night at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I should say. And they interview live authors. So if either of these authors are in this chat and have not scheduled an interview on the Between the Pages podcast, please do. It's another great avenue to get your work promoted. And at the beginning of that podcast, he does a quick live reading from books that he's received as book mail. And that's where this idea stemmed from, and I just wanted to extend it because I thought it was an excellent idea. If you guys are still free, by all means, 8 o'clock, either follow Megan or go find Sean's profile on TikTok, join in, hear the other author interviews. They do workshops, they do discussions to kind of help indie authors and kind of up-and-coming authors get some information. Anyways, that's all I've got for tonight. I really appreciate everybody who hopped in and participated. To both authors, thank you guys so much for trusting me again with your work. It was a pleasure to read. And like I said, hopefully I brought some new and interested readers to your space. Anyways, guys, thank you again and have a good night.